So today I'm going to talk about the vocally lead kind of thing in my song Taiga, as well as some of the synths and the idea behind their creation. So the vocally lead thing I'm talking about is this sound. And to make this sound, all you're really going to need is a sampler that has the ability to loop. So I'm just going to be using FL Studio's default sampler. So you can really use any vocal sample to create this, but I'm just going to be using one of FL Studio's stock vocal sample things. So I'm going to be using this one. And in FL Studio, I'm just going to open up an Edison and drag and drop that sample into it. And if you have the ability to detect notes just from hearing, or if you've got perfect pitch, this bit's not really necessary, but in this tab here, you can go regions and then detect pitch regions. I'm not sure if the pitch regions have been baked into this actual audio file, because it's a stock FL thing, or if Edison genuinely is detecting the note just based off the pitch. What you want to do is basically just find a bit of the sound that seems like it's loopable. So this bit here. For the one in the actual song, I used a very short clip, but you can really use as much of the sample as you want, as long as it's a sustained note. So just delete everything aside from what you want, and then just drag and drop this into the sampler. And because the part of the sample we've used is the note G, we want to set the root note to G. So now every note we hit is going to be the right note. So if we hit C, it's actually going to be C, or E, it's actually going to be E. And then within FL's sampler, the way you get it to loop is just by enabling this crossfade loop thing. You can do as much as you want, but I just put 100%. And this also means that when we hit a note, really fast, it only plays a little bit of the sample. It doesn't go through the whole thing like it usually would if you had it off. So even if you hit it really fast, it'll play through the whole sound. Like that. But if we enable it, it doesn't do this. You can also go into the instrument properties and mess around with some volume automation, some pitch automation. I think in the song I actually gave it a little bit of vibrato, but that's basically it. You can still mess around with some of the legacy effects and stuff. But that's basically the sound, and then in the song, the only effects that are on it are basically distortion and chorusing effects, and that's because the original sample is mono, and then just a very simple EQ to stop it from having any low end. And this effector is set as a granulator, and all that's doing is in a certain bit it kind of activates to make it seem like it's glitching out. So if I disable the bypass for a second, that's all it's doing. And there's some volume automation, which is just moving it along with everything else. So I also want to talk about the synths on this song just a little bit. Everything you're hearing there, except for the sub bass, is coming from this one massive patch. Which, without the filter and the effect, sounds like this. So it's just a really basic supersaw almost, except the wavetables I've used have a bit more high-end fuzz, and that's just starting the kind of sound, because I was going for a choiry kind of sound, and the choir aspect to it comes a lot from this double notch filter, and with the double notch filter it sounds like this, which is kind of starting off the choiry tone to it. And that's reinforced by the cone filter, which is kind of adding some dissonant harmonics. And the chorus effect is detuning it greatly. And then the reverb kind of blends everything together. So With the voicing, there's a tiny bit of pitch cutoff just so that it phases and it'll be even more stereo. And the reason I've used 4 voices is because if you use a number of voices that is divisible by 4 within Massive, it apparently makes it less CPU intensive for some reason. And then like some of the sounds in the drop, like this sound, they're created kind of similarly. There's a double notch in the comb filter and the chorus and the reverb. But the thing about this sound is that if I turn off this EQ, it sounds really terrible. And that's because there's all these really low frequencies, and they're coming from this frequency shifter, which the pitch is all the way down on, and it's placed just after filter 1. This is kind of lowering the pitch of the sound. It doesn't always work because the frequency shifter doesn't always sound like it's in the correct pitch, but it just kind of adds this weird low overtone to the whole sound. The main sound in the drop though is just a square wave with a lot of reverb. Like if I turn the reverb off, it sounds like this. But with it on, it makes all the notes blend together, and it just kind of seems like this wash of sound. And then you add that with everything in the background, and you get... It's kind of glitching out because my PC cannot handle this song when it's in primary sound driver mode. But yeah, I'm gonna leave some of the Massive patches in the description for you guys to go through. But yeah, I hope this has helped.